is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
iRacing Formula Renault 3.5 Championship heads stateside for the third round of the season. Join us in a couple of moments for round number 3 at Barber Motorsports Park, Alabama. You don't want to miss this one. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the start of round number 3 of the iRacing Formula Renault 3.5 Championship. I am Connery Madigan. Joining me in this week, as ever, it is the fresh sounding now with a new microphone, Stephen Burbage. And Stephen, first American race on the calendar, or one of the couple American races on the calendar, I should say, and it's going to be Barber Motorsports Park, home of one of the rounds of the real-life IndyCar series, but it is a very, very recent track, very modern track, only opened in 2003. And although I'm saying that thinking it's, just last year, but no, that's over 10 years ago. But still, this track doesn't quite have the history of some of the others on the calendar, but can provide some fantastic racing, especially with the elevation changes throughout.
Definitely. I mean, always you got to remember, Connery, history comes with time. And, I mean, it's been 15 years, but in the grand scheme of things, of motorsports, which is over 100 years of time, it's what's something to keep in perspective. But the races here with IndyCar and the traditional motorsport series have been fantastic, and I expect to see more of that today with this series.
Yeah, exactly. We do have qualifying underway right now. Currently, it is Morgan Moran that's currently all positioned by 0.4 of a second, right at the top of the timing stand. So that is going to be the benchmark to beat for all of your drivers out there, still out there with 2 minutes of qualifying remaining, trying to get their final laps up onto the board. But I don't think this one's going to change anytime soon. The only driver that might potentially be on the lap here before the end of the session will be Moreno Siricia here in the number 9 machine, but he doesn't seem to really be on the best of laps here as he comes down towards turn number 7, turn number 8, and turn number 9 as well. This fast sequence of corners, you're braking, you're turning, and going downhill as the canvas changes as well. Very, very technical section of the racetrack before he launches himself off for turn number 9 up through the S's in the middle of the lap before you head yourself to the final sector. Then another set of S's as you drop down and get back uphill before dropping down again. Fantastic track in terms of the roller coaster nature, but through the final couple of corners now for Soria. Let's see if he's able to improve on his, well, he hasn't even set a lap, so let's see if he can get himself up onto the board. He can. That's only good enough for number 10 though, and there's no one else out there on circuit that is going to be able to challenge to get themselves further up the grid in this one. So 30 seconds left in the qualifying session remaining, and I did allude to it, Stephen. This track is absolutely fantastic in terms of the elevation changes, in terms of the differing cambers through the corners as well, on camber or off camber. It has all sorts of variety.
Yeah, the biggest thing here is drivers adjusting to those elevation change. I mean, you come out of turn 2 and you've got that, you're turning for turn, I guess, 3, and you're cresting the hill at the same time, and some vehicles tend to have the back end come out on them because it just lightens up so much coming over that hill. I think that'll be interesting, especially on the first laps when they're still on those cold tires.
It will be very interesting indeed come the start. But speaking of the start, here's your starting grid for this evening's race here on Race Sport TV Friday primetime. Morgan Moran's pole position there by a good chunk of time indeed. 3.5 of a second over his fellow Frenchman of Tony Repousade, with Victor Prieto and Guerrero making it an all-Iberian second row. P number 5 goes to Moira there. In P number 5, we've got Michael Cleary. P number 6, Matteo Calistani and Stefan Chantal there. Down in P number 8, we see cycle things back. Dave Walsh starts P number 9 with Sirica P number 10. And your first Finn in the entire field, that's going to be Heijnen in P number 11. And then you've got cars further down the field. We've got the likes of Sautov, Saranzo, your Baron Daly as well. P number 15 with Dante Lavoska, P16, Claudio Candio, P number 17 with Luca Furlick. We've got Chris Owen and Albert Gisbert Algueras down in P number 20. Then you've got the cars right at the back of the field. Annie Medema, we've got Joseph Ringrose there as well, with Ivan Sole and Pablo Lambaras Soares, with Scott McIntyre and Andreas Nilsson rounding out your 26 car grid for the race here today. And we've got not too long at all before we get this race started. Morgan Moran with the advantage, taking pole position. He has his teammate on the front row with him, as you can see. So front row lockout there, but can they hold on their stranglehold at the front of this field? well, we've only got a couple of seconds before we find out here. Victor Prato starting for P3, looking to get a good start down in towards turn number 1, but it isn't the easiest place to overtake. Round number 3 for the iRacing Formula Renault 3.5 Championship gets underway. Fantastic start from P number 2 from Tony Represent. Looks around the outside at turn number 1, but that opportunity will go begging as he'll get the back end out through 2. Somehow holds it. Fantastic save there from Represent, but here comes Prato around the outside coming through the first sector, and he does manage to gain the position, but he has to be defensive down in towards turn number 5 because Repsar will come back at him around the outside, but he's not going to be able to fight it. He'll take the fight instead to turn number 7, 8, and 9. Here comes Repsar back then around the outside once again, coming through the corkscrew, but isn't able to find the move back on Victor Prato, and Prato now has P number 2 secured, but through all of that fighting, Morgan Morant has got himself a huge gap at the front of the field already, and this battle might not even be done because Represent's back down the inside of the S's. That is commitment and a half, Stephen. Stephen isn't here. There we go. But we'll get this one back going again. Apologies for that one, everyone. But the thing is, the standings as they hit their way across the line for the end of the first lap. Morgan Moran, P number 1 with what is going to be Tony Represent somehow hanging on to P number 2 with Victor Prato, P number 3, Fernando Guerrero, P4, Matty Calistani gets himself up into P number 5 from P number 7 on the grid, but he is being chased by Stefan Chantal now as he'll head his way down the inside at turn number 5, and actually Calistani will lose 2 positions here because Sarika's there as well, so all those positions gained in the early going, so Calistani is starting to become undone. He does have his teammate right behind him in this situation. Sabato had a little bit of a look into the corkscrew, but Calistani hot over the curves, and that's going to be a slow down penalty, you would suspect, for the driver of the number 2. He does have to lift out the throttle coming down the back straight, and that's Sabatov through once again. So, and oh my God, he's going to lose another position here to Ale Pucci there, and the car of Antti Levuska, and the car of Sorans. Oh, there's a little bit of contact between these two cars, but I was about to, go on about how Calistani's made up these fantastic early positions, but, because the commentator, I suppose.
Curse of the commentator, indeed. But, I mean, talk about curses. That first lap, P4, 5, 6, I mean, that just started a domino, which allowed some drivers really to gain some spots early on.
It really has. We have a couple of cars down onto the lane. We've got the 4 of Moreira, we've got the 15 of Medina, and the 11 of what's going to be Scott McIntyre running into issues. Actually, we're riding on board right now with Scott McIntyre on the replay of the race start. This happened a little bit deeper through the field. There was a huge instant coming down through there. We are more focused on the battle right at the front, but the battles behind, well, that wasn't really much of a battle. It's because of battle rolling down the track. We'll have a look down at number 1 once again. It's just a huge amount of confusion coming down into there, and multiple cars spun around, multiple cars facing the wrong way, and that can be the tricky thing about turn number 1 here sometimes, is that it is a single line corner, and it can just result in absolute car parks like we've just seen. But on the live pictures, Matteo Calistani has running himself into a couple of issues once again, actually gets completely rear-ended by Michael Cleary in the number 23, and if we can get a replay of this one, I don't think I can justify this one, as we'll cycle back once again.
Yeah, it was just seemed a little early on to be going in that hard.
We'll have a look. Clear it down the inside.
Yeah.
That's you can't really justify things like that. But here we go, back on to the live pictures then, running on board with Antti Levuska, currently P number 9 in this situation, trying to chase down the Italian of Ale Pucci. Let's see how he's able to make some inroads here, as we do have another car that's run into issues. That's Joseph Ringrose, P number, was P number 12, dropping rapidly down the field because he spun himself at turn number 5. Let's see if there's anyone else involved in this one. I think it might be Chris Kuhn that is in close proximity, but he doesn't actually get involved. We'll see Ringrose hit his way down the inside, a little bit of a lock with the brakes, and well, at least from my view, there wasn't any contact between those two cars, and well, he spins right on towards the apex of the hairpin. So that is a very tough situation to get out of, especially with traffic coming, and Ringrose preferred not even to try, as he'll take the toe down on towards the lane. So that is Ringrose out of this event, and he very much isn't the only driver to fall victim to troubles early on.
And that right there is just the worst thing to have, is where you're stuck on the underbelly of the car on the curb and just can't get off. I mean, getting caught in an incident, having damage to the car is one thing, but having to take a tow due to being stuck on the curb is not the way you want your race to go.
Still the battle for P number 8 on your screen right now. Poti has I would say, what is a manageable, a comfortable gap back to Lvoska right now, and Lvoska hasn't really made that many inroads over the past couple of laps. So Poti being fairly comfortable in that position right now, as they'll head their way across the line to complete lap number 5 of this event. A very short lap time here at Barber Motorsports Pack. We have 25 of them to run, but they've only been running 1 minute 6 second, 1 minute 7 second lap time. So that is a very quick lap, very fast and furious one. But let's just see how this race will go in terms of that. But we've got, as we're still riding on board with Antonovsky, you just see how twitchy he was out off of turn number 5, in fact, trying to get that power down through those rear tires, but starting to look a little bit sketchy. And that's what we saw at the Nürburgring, especially Stephen, where some of the cars later on in the run became incredibly twitchy, and usually on entry. But the thing is, Lvoska having a little of those twitches on exit as well.
Yeah, Connor, you bring up a very good point. As the fuel burns out of these cars, it really does lighten them up. And depending on the brake bias the drivers have set up and the rest of their suspension, I mean, it can really... Oh! We got 2 cars around.
That's Chris Oon involved in that one, and I just picking up the name of the other driver, that's Andreas Nilsson, that went for a escapade onto the grass on the back straight, and I think this is going to be another rear ending. In fact, it is. So Nilsson straight into the back of Chris Oon there. That, again, is another instant that I, as a commentator, can't exactly justify, as they'll get themselves back onto the racing surface, off the racing line. That I guess they've got, at least got that going for them. As we will return to the live pictures then, because the battle for P number 2 is starting to heat up. It's Tony Reprizard versus Victor Preto. They had a scrap in the first lap of this event, but Preto looking to continue this down through the middle of the race as well.
Yeah, Preto is, I think, playing the long game with this, and what we've seen in the series, Conrad, that is what you want to do. Don't take the risks early on, save the car, and then make your moves at the end. But he's staying right there in the draft, he's holding close, he's doing what he needs to do, and I think if he holds this position and makes that final push at the end, he'll be in a very good spot.
It's also a case of if these two drivers, or how many DRS activations these two drivers have after that first lap. I would have suspected a couple would have been used in that situation, and part of racing this car is managing the amount of DRS activations that you do have to use. But Preto is in a pretty good position right now. You can actually sit behind the driver of the one and just kind of slipstream him all the way down the back straight here, even though this isn't really the best track for the draft, not really the best track for DRS. You can open it up here and get a huge advantage into the second S's of turn number 12 and 13, but not close enough to draw himself alongside just yet. But you just see he's waiting there, watching and stalking, gained 0.3 of a second on that last lap, and it looks like this one's going to be a gain as well, but how much we'll know as he heads his way out of the final corner. That's going to be the swing once again towards turn number 1, and Victor Preto, he wants to make this move. He attempted it early on, but the opportunities just haven't been there for him right now. But he can bide his time a little bit here. Only on lap number 9 of 25. Still plenty of time to get himself one step higher on that podium.
Yeah, that is always the challenge, is how do you pace yourself with the DRS? And the tighter you're fighting with somebody, the more tempting it is to use those, Connery. I'm looking a little further back, and the battle for 8th is just picking up. You got Lavoska just really putting on the pressure on Putu.
Yeah, that's the battle that we were keeping an eye on earlier, but Lavoska starting to tighten the screw. You can see all 3 previous laps he has gained, and it has been a, sort of situation where Lavoska here, he's starting to get himself into a position where he can potentially challenge at some point somewhere around this circuit. Needs to be a tiny bit closer for my liking, but gaining a 1/10 of a second 2 laps ago, 3.5 tenths of a second just 1 lap ago, that is absolutely fantastic for the Finnish driver. But as they head their way across the line, still not going to be any advantage going the way of Lavoska right now. Still no chances to get himself by, and that's one of the things at this racetrack where the overtaking opportunities are few and far between, exactly like Nürburgring. But Lavoska gets a fantastic run out of the first sector, might just be able to challenge in towards 5, finds the inside line, room given though by Wurty, but room not taken, as they will remain the same way off the corner as they entered it with Lavoska behind. And Lavoska now not able to challenge down through the corkscrew. Puti has to be very careful with those slowdown penalties coming through that section. He went very, very heavy over the curb that last time, but he seems to be okay. But we're also watching as well for P number 2, because Victor Preto, look at him, he's all over the back now of Tony Repouzade, and Repouzade really feeling the pressure from behind from Preto. What have you spotted?
Cicero just went off number 9.
Number 9, that was the driver, and P number 6 will have to fight for position though from Puti, and Puti manages to make his way by, and that's going to be Surika slotting his way back in, looks for the move, then inside for turn number 1. Oh, that is a risky move indeed, but they managed to get through it. There's a car off ahead of them. That's going to be Joseph Ringrose trying to get himself any sort of points from this event, but Surika now goes for the insides, coming down through turn number 5 now. Battle late breakers down into here, 2x2 like Noah's Ark. Joseph Ringrose has absolutely drilled Andy Lavoska there. That is not the behavior you like to see from a lap down car. So Lavoska now probably has a little bit of damage as a result of that one, as Puti and Surika were still fighting down into the corkscrew, and we'll see this one on the replay. It's never something you like to see. Coming out of the first sector, then you see those cars sort of prepare themselves, sort of scrap amongst themselves for position. That purple and black car, there is Joseph Ringrose 1 lap down, and he just there's nothing Lavoska could have done there when the lapped car locks up the brakes on the inside.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like, I don't think that was an intentional thing from Ringrose. I just think he just misjudged the braking point, get caught up in the action, maybe not being able to see his brake marker, and just realized he was in too deep and just tried his best to get the thing stopped, and it just wasn't enough.
It looks pretty comical on the onboard, I have to say, with Ringrose absolutely, it's not even a slight lock, it's a full front lock, trying to get himself stopped for turn number 5. And, common knowledge in that situation as a lapped car, usually you would just brake a little bit earlier, make sure the lead lap guys can get past you by the time the corner apex arrives. I'm not sure what he was, thinking, trying to brake so deep into that corner, and it's the corner that he has had trouble with previously as well. That's where he actually went a lap down after spinning on the entry to that one. Oh, Preto! He has absolutely punted Repouzade to the outside of the race circuit, and now Repouzade a completely ruined front wing, and he's going to be dropping further and further and further back through the rest of this race. What has happened here? Repouzade, let's have a look. I might not have called it right the first time, and I did call it right the first time, but it was a chain reaction from a bit of lap traffic ahead there. That's going to be Ivan Sol right in the middle of the race circuit. Nowhere for Repouzade to really go, and I think Repouzade was expecting the car more to take a line towards that left-hand side there. Instead, Ivan Sol kept tight on the corner, and as a result, Repouzade no time to react, straight into the back, and also Victor Preto, concertina effect, and Repouzade now. That is huge in terms of the fight for the podium positions in this race, and it's once again involving lapped traffic. So that is certainly a concern if you're one of these top running guys now. You have to be so careful around these lap down cars because you have no idea what they're going to do.
No, you don't, and I think we're seeing the lap down just due to familiarity of this circuit. I mean, we spoke with several guys last week, and they were saying, it's like, I haven't turned a lot of laps here. We had one driver said, this is my drop week. So unfamiliarity creates a larger gap in lap times, and I think that's why we're seeing so much lap traffic that we're not as familiar to seeing in previous rounds.
Well, yeah, it is a very short lap time, and that just brings the drivers that are off the pace back into the way of your race leaders much more quickly than some other racing circuits. But we do have a couple of battles still out there on track with what is going to be on lap number 14 right now. We're currently watching Sarika. Once again, he has been in the wars in this one, but still looking to track down and gain positions. The one ahead of him is going to be Ruslan Sabatov, currently P number 5, up from P number 13, and that is just tells a story in this race. Sarika DRS going to be wide open, then down in towards the S's section, but not able to complete the move. Will he be able to complete it coming through the next sequence of corners? Looking around the outside, if he can hold it, he has the inside for the final corner, but not able to sustain the advantage coming through the final corner, and he'll have to wait another day. But Sarika up what is going to be 4 positions up into P number 6. Sabatov is up even more positions from P13 up into P number 5, and the train of thought that I was on before I had to commentate on that battle, Stephen, is that just shows how much trouble these front-running guys have had with the instance out there on circuit with the lap traffic.
Yeah, and I mean, to add insult to injury, with the elevation changes, with the way the corners are here, many of them are blind, and so sometimes when you're trying to be nice, like we saw earlier, I think he was getting on the brakes, trying to hold to the inside and let the drivers go by on the racing line, but because they're not used to dealing with lap traffic in this manner, it's created this issue where it's blind and people are trying to be courteous but not knowing where each other's going to go, and it's just creating these problems.
It has definitely been a race of attrition, and things may not be calming down for Sabatov and Sarika right now. Sarika we're on board with, but there's a gaggle of lap traffic ahead that is fighting amongst each other for position, so this is going to be sort of requiring a well-managed sort of multi-class mentality here, trying to get these passes done on the lap traffic, but they managed to get disposed of one for the time being. And the cars ahead, that's going to be Chris Owen and Ivan Sol. They're currently battling for P number 16 out there, down on towards turn number 5. And Sabatov and Sarika now, they just have to be hoping that the lap traffic isn't side by side when it comes time to lap them.
True, and Sol is still running with all that damage, and I mean, he got real sketchy earlier on. I'm a little surprised he's still out there with the car in that kind of shape.
Yeah. Definitely going to be off the pace, running lap times 1 minute 10 seconds there.
He was off.
Yeah, that was going to be on in the background, but we'll keep it on this battle for P number 5 right now, as Sabatov has to lift out the throttle because Chris Owen was so slow coming off the second S's section here at Barber, but he'll find his way down the inside of the lap traffic, becomes the outside for the final corner. No luck though for Sarika, as he has to stay behind and has a switch off for the final corner. Puti's going to come back on him. That's going to be for position as well. So Puti getting himself involved in this battle now, thanks to the lap traffic slowing up this group a little bit. And meanwhile, Sabatov still trying to deal with the lap traffic side by side with Ivan Sol down in towards turn number 5, but Chris Owen looks for the opportunistic move around the outside. So 2 battles, 2 laps apart that I'm commenting on there. That's kind of hard to keep track. But Ivan Sol and Chris Owen side by side for P number 16 in amongst your leaders. And Ivan Sol will have to back out of that one because Sarika's on his way through, doesn't want to get himself involved in everything. So that's going to be the situation as it stands. So that is a mess there on your screen with lap traffic involved with league lap cars. It's you know, it's not what we expected, but it's what we have to deal with, as there was an orange car on the inside there going very, very slow, just letting all of these cars by. And I think that's just a case of seeing what has happened already with the lap down incidents and just not wanting to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, whew, you said it earlier, multi-class mentality, and you know that's what these drivers really need to think about right now. I mean, the attrition is real in this race, and you know, again, I go back to familiarity. There's a lot more familiarity with some of the circuits we've had earlier this season. This is, for many of these drivers, a newer circuit. They don't have nearly as much track time here. And we're starting to see the ones that have the more experience here versus the ones that, you know, it's new. And you're seeing where the mistakes come up because of that unfamiliarity.
It's not a track that is run that often here on iRacing. Of course, it's one of the main features of the IndyCar series, but every single other series, then it's not the most popular of tracks, and that might be what we're starting to see here, with drivers not being entirely comfortable with how this track goes. But the back down issues continue. Oh no, that's going to be Lavoska off as well. We were riding on the back of him, but the incident was all in front, and that is a good couple of cars involved, and it includes Lavoska and Poti as well. We'll get the replay up on screen for you now. Another running into the back of here in your lap down cars. Chris Owen straight into the back of Furlick, and again, I'm trying to find justification for these incidents, and I'm not finding any. Just heads up driving, look at the car ahead, and if they're slow, just slow down yourself. It's that simple.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds simple in theory, but these cars are moving at such, you know, quick speeds. The suspension has so little travel. I mean, if you're dealing with like GT cars or stock cars, the bodies move a lot more, and with GT cars there's brake lights. But with these, I mean, you don't have the brake lights, you don't have the suspension movement. It's a lot harder to gauge if somebody's on the brakes, other than noticing, oh no, they're slowing down, like way down.
Yeah, exactly. And wow, this race just keeps changing and changing and changing and changing. But as it stands right now, we've got Sabatov and Sarika. That's the closest battle out there on track that has somehow survived through those incidents that we've had. Those guys are still pretty close, 1 second separating them on track, but everyone else seems pretty spread out at this stage. But with Morans, we've got Preto, we've got Guerrero, currently your podium positions right now, and this is just going to be a case of who can survive the final 6 laps. You have to argue, Stephen.
Yeah, that's been the question of the whole race, hasn't it, Connor?
It pretty much has. This is an interesting stat line for you, if I can find this correct. We've got 11 cars on the lead lap of 26.
Yeah. I mean, that says everything right there.
Yeah, it does.
But despite all the attrition, all the difficulties drivers have been running into, I mean, the battles have been just phenomenal. I mean, I hope this circuit stays on the calendar more often, because as drivers get more and more familiar with the circuit, we're just going to see it get better and better.
Hopefully we'll see it get better and better, but this isn't exactly the showcase that people want to see from the iRacing Formula Renault 3.5 series. But we've already gone through some reason for that, not the best of tracks, and you know, because of that, going to be a lower strength of field, and some drivers that aren't used to being on broadcast, aren't used to the level of competition, getting themselves involved getting themselves involved in this, and perhaps not knowing what to do. But you can see there on the positions change graphic, a lot of cars having many issues. You got Calistani down 15, Michael Cleary down 17, Moreira down 19, and it's just been a mess right at the back of the field. But we've got 5 laps to go here, still decent amount of racing to go, as we have had a pass. That's going to be for P number 10. Poti lost the position to Falqueras. Huge amount faster on the last lap, and it was Poti going about 6 seconds off the pace there, so that is not exactly what you want to see, as Poti has run into a couple of issues, and he has run into a couple of issues over the past 3 laps since he's been off the pace on lap number 18, 19, 20. He does have damage to that car. You can see the, well, at least I can see right now, front wing is completely destroyed on that number 12 machine. So Falgaris, easy move down the inside there into the first sector. But right now, with about 4 laps remaining, once Morgan Morand heads his way, well, about 3 laps remaining, excuse me, once Morand heads his way across the line, this is now going to be who can get to the end in the cleanest fashion possible. All the battles have spread out more than a second up and down the field. So the issue for Morand right now, he's got a 6.8 second gap over Victor Preto. A good chunk of that came in the first couple of laps as Preto was trying to battle and have a scrap with the number 2 driver of Tony Repousade, but Repousade instant with the lap traffic. I think you can just say that about every single instance so far in this race. Unfortunately, has brought him down through the field, but Preto, he'll be very happy with a P number 2 after starting P number 3 in this one. But just, you know, we're getting to the point in the race now. We've got 3 laps to go where we start to summarize what we've seen, and we've talked a lot about it. And it's a race of attrition. It's for some of the lead lap guys, you basically have to run it, like I've said before, in a sort of multi-gas mindset with the lap traffic, with how it constantly comes up on you. But I think what we've seen today is open-wheel drivers not being able to deal with lap situations easily.
Yeah, I definitely think that's one thing. Going back to something you talked about earlier, you know, you're talking about like the track being difficult, but you know, really the problems and the fault's not so much the track. It really is unfamiliar with the drivers not putting in proper practice. And you know, I think it's always important to remember that it's the driver's responsibility to be prepared for a race, and it's not so much that the track has to cater to that. And maybe that's a mindset that's sometimes missing with some drivers, and they need to kind of focus back on that.
More practice required, you could argue. The closest battle that we have out there, though, is between Byron Daly and David Taranzo. But again, that's even starting to look more like 2 seconds rather than 1 second there in that one. So things could close up inside of this top 10, but it's looking rather unlikely right now. But we do have Sarika and Sabatov. I just saw a little bit of movement on my timing screens there. I'm not sure if Sarika had made a slight mistake, or rather Sabatov had made a slight mistake trying to bring and has brought, excuse me, Sarika back into this battle, but that one's looking below a second right now. You can see on the lap time delta that Sabatov lost 1.3 seconds, more like 1.4 seconds on that last lap, so we will have a battle here in the dying stage of the season.
Well, that's what we were hoping to see, and that's what I was expecting as we get into the final stages. So this is, despite all the troubles people have been running into, I'm glad to see such a great battle here at the end.
Final lap, white flag is out there. Morgan Moran heading his way through turn number 5. That is going to be your race leader, and if he completes this next lap, the race winner here in the round number 3 of the Formula Renault 3.5 Championship. But things are not done for P number 5, not at all, because Sabatov has to try and defend from the number 9 of Sarika, and this is going to be the last lap sort of potential dive here for Sarika, but he's simply not that close coming in towards turn number 5, and he's not going to be close coming off turn number 5 either. But through the final corner comes Morand. He'll weave his way across the line to take the checkered flag in an emphatic fashion for the number 5. Morgan Morand, your race winner here in round number 3, and no issues since the start of the race at all. But Sarika and Sabatov, they're on the back straight. Here comes Sarika, looking right, looking potentially left down in towards the S's, but he can't find the move. He can't find the move. That's a fantastic launch around the outside at 13 through 14 and 15. Sarika looking for the inside, coming through towards the final corner, but not able to find it. He'll have to try and get any sort of traction off the final corner, but that's not long enough of a straight to bring himself alongside. Sarika has to settle for P number 6, and Sabatov holding on there in the last lap to P number 5. Wow, that all of a sudden got rather spicy, Steven.
Yeah, that's what I love about Barber, because so many of the corners has that banking. It allows drivers to challenge on the outside, and it creates awesome battles like that. So I really hope we see this more often.
I certainly hope that we see it more often as well, but here are your official race results for round number 3 of the iRacing Formula Renault 3.5 Championship. Morgan Morand takes the race win after starting pole position. He had absolutely no issues in the race, got himself through the treacherous lapped traffic after the cars behind decided to scrap amongst themselves. Victor Prieto taking P number 2 there, 5.5 seconds behind your race leader, with Fernando Guerrero even further back in P number 3. Stefan Chantal finishes P number 4, with Ruslan Sabatov hanging on for P5, with Sarika P6, Fernando 7th, with Brian Daly, Tony Reprizard there down in P number 9 after running in the top 3 all day. But Albert Gisbert Falgueras rounds out your top 10. And first of the cars, a lap down. We've had 9 cars finish on the lead lap here, which isn't exactly what you want to see, but we'll continue on regardless. Ali Poti, P number 11. Dave Walsh, P number 12. Andreas Nilsson, Chris Owen, and Claudio Candio bring things down to P15. Ivan Sol, Luca Ferlick, Joseph Ringrose, Joni Kajanen and Antti Levuska bring things down to P number 20. And then you've got cars that have retired in this race. We've got Suarez, we've got Matthew Calistani, Michael Cleary, we've got Moira, we've got Medema and Scott McIntyre there right at the back of the field, rounding out your 26 finishing results. So join us in a couple of minutes here on RaceSpot TV, Friday primetime on the iRacing Esports Network. We'll get the post-race show going in just a couple of moments' time. Don't go away. Gentlemen, welcome back to the post-race show here on RaceSpot TV Friday prime time. And what an interesting, and I guess interesting is the word, race that we've had this evening. You can see up on your screen your top 10 standings, 9 cars on the leading lap. Just tells a story of trials and tribulations for both lead lap cars and lap down cars as well. But we do have a couple of drivers to get ourselves a couple of words with here. And the first driver that's going to be in the commentary booth is going to be the driver that finished on the 3rd step of the podium. That's going to be Fernando Guerrero, standing by with Stephen Burbage.
Well, Fernando, it was a challenging race and definitely more traffic than you guys are used to. Well, the head start was something else, and I think you saw more of it in your review. Just walk us through your race and just some of the things that you had to adjust to as things went on.
Clearly, the most important thing for us was the qualifying. Both myself and Victor could manage to set a good quali lap on our first attempt. We were in the second row of the grid, so that made our start really easy because we could avoid all the carnage we assumed that was going to happen in the group, as it finally did. So yeah, the start was pretty easy from behind, but unfortunately Victor hit Tony in the second corner. It wasn't a big deal. He just gained that position, but he let him by afterwards in the first lap. And yeah, after lap 1, it was for me a really easy race to manage because I had better pace than the guys behind me, and I was clearly slower than the guys ahead. So my job was done. I made Victor's life really easy in lap 1, which was the main goal. And after lap 1, I was just cruising, knowing that I couldn't gain any position by my pace because I was slower than the guys ahead. But yeah, as you say, difficult race to manage when the traffic came into effect. Unfortunately, Tony was a victim today. We knew that could happen in a track like this, 26 cars in a track barely 1 minute 10 long. We knew this could happen, and yeah, unfortunately, we lost Tony. We don't like to gain positions like that, but yeah, that's racing. What can you say? And for us, finally, a great result. For me, my first week actually racing in this series and training properly, a P3 in the soft race, I think it's a pretty good result. And for Victor, another podium, P2, leader of in the points leader, obviously with 1 week more than Riku, but yeah, so far a great start of the season for us.
A great start indeed, and I think you hit on a very important thing there. Practice. You guys put in the time, and it really paid off today. So congratulations on that. Before we let you go, any sponsors, shout-outs, thank yous?
Well, just thank you again to all my teammates in Champs iRacing. Today we were only 3 on track, both myself, Victor and Albert, who had a top 10 finish. So great job by him as well. And then, well, a couple more teammates who have been helping us throughout this week. Sergio Macias, Victor Rodriguez and Manu Domingo, all 3 of them couldn't make the race today, but they have been consistently quick all week, and yeah, everybody's helping us to get those results, and yeah, so thank you.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to you as well. We'll see you next week. Connor?
Well, that was Fernando Guerrero finishing P number 3 for Champs iRacing. But we do have another driver to talk to before we go here on Racesport TV Friday Prime Time. It's going to be the driver of Moreno Sirica there, down in P number 6 after starting in P number 10. A net gain of positions, Moreno, but you were involved in what seemed like pretty much everything. Just take me through your race.
Yeah, it was a pretty chaotic start. I managed to go around the outside from first corner. Then I only tried to push all the race. And I made some mistakes. I was in P6 and then I dropped down to P8, P9 because I went so wide in last few corners. But then I was able to catch the guys in front of me, and in the last laps there was a battle with the P5 for the P5, but I was not able to catch him.
Yeah, very, very busy, very involved race for you today. And one of the things that we talked a lot about in the race commentary was how difficult the lap traffic was. And I think you're the best example for this one because you were involved in battles of your own on the lead lap while also trying to get past cars that are being shown the blue flag. And, you know, as an open wheel driver, of course, you don't get that situation often. So how do you approach, you know, managing a battle of your own while also trying to stay safe with the lap traffic?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, I'm GT driver. This was my first race in this series this season, and it was a bit difficult this time because, you know, when you are near to the car in front of you with this type of car, you struggle a lot or try to be so close. But you know, it was difficult. It was very, very difficult to manage this traffic.
I think that's a phrase that does sum up this entire race, to be completely honest. But late on in the race, on the final lap, you did have a opportunity to get yourself inside of the top 5, and I think the battle with Ruslan Sabatov was just a situation of you wanting basically one more lap to try and get that move done.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a bit faster than him. I try everything to catch. I go around the outside in the last corners, but there was no opportunity. He defends so well.
Yeah, he really did, and hung on to P number 5. But is there anyone you want to thank before we go here, Moreno?
Yeah, I want to say thanks to my team, Manzo Racing Team, and all our sponsors that give us the material for race this night.
There we go. That's Moreno Surica finishing in P number 6 here for round number 3 of the iRacing Formula Renault 3.5 Championship. And unfortunately, that is all that we have time for here on Race Sport TV Friday Primetime. Thank you very much for joining us for this one. And round number 4 is exactly in 1 week's time. I've been Connery Maddock. Joining me in the commentary booth has been Stephen Burbage, with Hugo Luis on the cameras as well. And our TV camera pack provided by Esteban Ballo, overly designed Andreas Werner, and Simon Grossman, the technical boffin that makes a TVO there, with live timing by Nick Bisson. Join us next week for more Formula Renault 3.5 action.